Have compassion and respect for your patients.
Dr. Wedzig, what first drew you to the field of medicine?
Beginning of 2015, I finished my surgical practice in Australia. All qualities of people that we need more in medicine. People who have empathy, compassion, respect for the patient.
Is your final message to the medical student?
That together we can achieve more. That's what teamwork means in English. Together, everyone achieves more. And always put the patient first.
How did your journey begin in Australia as a surgeon?
Well, I hope that I can leave behind some well-trained doctors.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have an amazing guest, Dr. Neil Wedzig, President of G4 Alliance, a highly respected figure in global surgery and healthcare system. Welcome to my podcast, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. First, Dr. Wedzig, what first drew you to the field of medicine?
When I was growing up, I had an interest in biology when I was at school, particularly at my secondary school. And then it just seemed like a natural fit. I wanted to learn, I liked people and I wanted to learn about medicine. So I went to medical school.
Oh, so that was the reason behind going to medical school.
Yes.
Perfect, sir. Sir, what first drew you to the field of general surgery? Like you can become a academic, you can go anywhere, any field, but you choose general surgery.
Yeah, I chose surgery to specialize in because when I was a medical student, I saw that when people had a problem and you operated on them, most times you could remove the problem and they would get better. When I went around medical wards, I saw doctors giving drugs, and that's a good thing, and they would have to then wait for the medication to work. But in surgery, you saw results. And also you could do things with your hands, which I liked doing.
Yeah, I like to doing so. Perfect, sir. And sir, how did your journey begin in Australia as a surgeon?
Well, we do 6 years of medical school,
Yes.
and then I worked for 2 years in a hospital, one in a rural or provincial area, and then I came back to the main city hospital where I had done my medical student days, and I entered a surgical training program. That took another 3 or 4 years to get onto the program, and then 5 years of active study to become a surgeon. So it took about 8 to 9 years after I graduated to actually become a surgeon.
Perfect, sir. It is a long journey, sir.
It is.
Sir, what motivated you to transition from your surgical practice in Brisbane to a dedicated focus on healthcare and surgical training in Democratic Republic of Congo?
In 2002, I was very comfortable. I was working hard. I had a big surgical practice, and I was invited to go and have a meeting with a Congolese orthopedic surgeon. He was traveling around Australia. I did not have time to go, but I felt I should go. So I went to meet this doctor out of respect. And he talked about how he had a hospital in Congo and doctors in the hospital, and if he sent them out of the country to get trained, because of the war-torn nature of Congo, they did not come back again. And he was looking for doctors who were interested in teaching to go and train and teach his doctors in country, because he believed that if they had their training in country, they would stay there. The following year, I happened to be going to Africa on a trip, so I organized to get to the Congo, and that was a fairly traumatic visit anyway, because it was a war zone at the time, and it was difficult to get in. I had to get special permission. But I spent just 3 or 4 days in 2003 at the hospital, and I saw what was being done, and I thought, we can do something to help here. I like teaching. I was already had an academic post at my university Department of Surgery, and I thought, oh, I think I could help there. So the final thing was at that time, my specialty was endocrine surgery, so I did a lot of thyroid surgery. And just before I left, he said, do you know anything about goiter, which was the enlarged thyroid? I said, that's what I do. And he said, great, you can come and teach us how to do that. So that was almost confirmation that I should do it. It took me 3 years to talk some colleagues into coming with me on the first trip in 2006. So from then on, we took teams, multidisciplinary medical teams every year until COVID. We'd take them to Congo. We would be doing teaching and training. Our ethos was to not do the work, but to teach and train the local Congolese. But when, in a few years before we moved there, my wife particularly was saying we could do so much more if we were here for longer term. So in 2015, just nearly 10 years ago, at the beginning of 2015, I finished my surgical practice in Australia. And we went to Congo. It was just about the time when the whole global surgery movement was
Just figure.
happening. And I feel there was a divine intervention way into that I managed to be moving to Congo just when all the global surgery things were being released. And so we now spend somewhere between 6 and 9 months of the year in Congo. We do go back to Australia from time to time. We have to go back. During that time, we established a not-for-profit medical charity to support the work we are doing in Congo. Not we are self-funding, but to support the training of doctors. So we go back to do fundraising and things like that. And we still take teams every year. We go back to train our teams to go.
So as you mentioned that you leave a very well-established general surgery practice in Australia and come to the Congo.
Yes.
What do you think? That was a wise decision or not?
Oh, it was a wonderful decision,
Oh,
I think. People may think I'm a bit crazy, but we often reflect and say it was the right decision. If I had not done that, I'd be working too hard well, I still work hard, but I would have missed the opportunity to build into a whole health system and strengthen the health system, particularly in surgery training. So when we went there, we established a surgical training program with the College of Surgeons of East, Central, and Southern Africa. I did not want to just be training people with no qualifications. So we established that with this College of Surgeons. We have had 18 trainees come through. The native language in Congo is either French or Swahili. The training is all in English. So that has been difficult. So about 8 of our trainees have not been able to complete the course.
exactly.
But we've had a number pass the first parts of the course. And in the last 2 years, we've had 2 fully qualified Congolese surgeons, young men that I have trained, and now I am mentoring them.
Oh,
So that is why it is worthwhile.
it is worthwhile, sir. Amazing. Sir, as the president of the Permanent Council of the G4 Alliance, what are the Alliance's main objectives?
Well, the main objective currently is that our mission statement is we are advocating for the neglected surgical patient. And we do that because we want to create awareness of the needs in low and middle income countries like Congo. We want to get policies put in place to help improve surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia care. That is what the 4 stands for.
Stand for
Surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia care. And we also want to mobilize resources. Resources does not just mean equipment, but it means workforce. So what I am doing on the ground, so to speak, in Congo, I'm translating that to a global level, and I've been given this opportunity. I was elected the president-elect and now the president of the G4 Alliance to advocate to the United Nations, to the World Health Organizations, to funders like the World Bank to improve surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia care. On the ground in Congo, we were training surgeons, but we found that most of the surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia care was being done by just general doctors, young doctors who would go through 7 years of medical school. They would take a job in a rural area and they would be expected to operate, but they had never been taught. They had no practical training.
Exactly.
So we realized there were many complications for that. So rather than just fixing up the complications, which was part of my role there, we decided that we would start a program to train the rural doctors how to do surgery. So we've been doing that now for 2 years. We've moved from just purely training specialist surgeons to actually training rural doctors to do surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia. And then that is what I'm advocating for at the higher level. And we hope that that can be spread because the needs are exactly the same in Congo as other places.
As other places. Absolutely perfect, sir. Sir, you and your wife, Gwen Wedzig, were appointed Officer of the Order of Australia for your contribution.
Yes.
How did this recognition reflect on the work you have done?
Well, it was nice to have the honor, but that is not why we do the job. The backstory to that, though, was that one of my surgical mentors in Australia, when I finished my practice, I think he was disappointed because I had a fairly good career going there. And it turns out that he nominated me for that award because he subsequently said, I could not have done what you were doing, and you are strengthening the whole health system. So the fact that he nominated us both for that award
Exactly.
probably meant more to me as one of my surgical mentors than it did to actually get the award. But it was nice to get some recognition.
Exactly. Perfect, sir. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Sir, you have worked alongside your wife throughout this journey. How has your partnership influenced and enriched your work in the DRC?
Well,
Right.
yes, I could not do it without my wife, and we regularly reflect on that. So my wife is not medical. In Australia, she was my practice manager. She managed my surgical practice. But she is an administrator, has administrative gifts. So when I'm doing the surgical training, she does a lot of the administrative work and she keeps the finances and for our program. She looks after the finances and administration of our charity. Along with people back in Australia. But she does all of that. The other thing in Congolese culture, many of the young doctors, they relate well to their mother, not necessarily to their father. So they will go and tell her things that they do not necessarily want to tell me. And she will then inform me, and that's how it works beautifully because we are like a family. Our trainees are like a family, so she is able to encourage them as well as doing the administrative work.
Perfect, sir. Amazing. Sir, in your opinion, what does the future hold for global surgery?
Yeah. The future for global surgery, I believe, is bright because the G4 Alliance has a major mission. It's an organization of over 70 different organizations or a compilation of those organizations. And I believe that together we can achieve more. That's what teamwork's in English. Together, everyone achieves more.
Exactly.
So we can unite together to advocate for increased awareness. So one of the things that has happened was that the problems and the deficiencies in care for surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia care were highlighted back in 2015. And the World Health Assembly passed a resolution to improve that. But then in 2020, along came COVID, which changed much of the world.
Exactly.
And the World Health Organization transitioned to a more integrated care of emergency, critical, and operative care. Operative being the surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia. So because they saw that in COVID, emergency treatment was needed, people needed oxygen. So it's become a little more integrated. So our role now is to advocate for not just SOTA care, but SOTA care within the emergency, critical, and operative care framework, making sure that the operative care has a key role, is funded, that people are trained so that care can be given. So it is never a quick thing to do these things. Advocacy and awareness takes a long time. So the G4 Alliance next year will celebrate its 10th anniversary, but we are looking towards the end of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030. So we have 6 more years to advocate strongly to improve operative care. And if we can train people, we can resource them with low-cost resources, and we can set up health systems where all of that works together. The key thing out of all that is that the patient will get better care.
Exactly.
It has to be patient-centered care. So we've got to take the community with us. So on one hand, we have the World Health Organization and organizations like it doing top-down treatment, but we've got to work from the bottom up. That's how we will get global surgery improved.
Improve. Exactly. Perfect, sir. Sir, looking back on your journey, what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Well, I hope that I can leave behind some well-trained doctors who do surgery, obstetric, trauma, and anesthesia care well. I hope that I can. That is really the legacy I would like to see, particularly in Congo. But I think some of the things we are learning from that we can also transport to other countries where it is needed as well, particularly in Africa. The reason I focus on Africa is when one looks at where the workforce issues are, there are problems all over the world, but in sub-Saharan Africa is where, and India are where, and Pakistan are where the greatest needs are. So we need to be working to improve this right across that. So I'm hoping my legacy will be that we have actually implemented. It's great to have all these plans, but implementing them is the critical thing.
Exactly, and that is the actual part of
Yeah.
planning. Exactly. Perfect, sir. Sir, what advice would you give to young surgeons and medical professionals who are inspired to follow in your footsteps and engage in humanitarian work?
Yeah. The first thing is get well trained. I can only do the sort of diverse surgery I'm doing in Congo because I was well trained. So when I was in Australia, I had a subspecialty. But during my training in general surgery in Australia, and then I worked in the UK for a few years, I had a broad exposure to lots of different surgery, from gastrointestinal, esophageal surgery to different types of abdominal surgery, trauma surgery, urology, things like chest surgery. So I had all that in the background. I was not using it in Australia, but when you go to a country like Congo, you have to use all of those skills and you have to improvise. So my key thing is to make sure you are well trained, become a good doctor. Importantly, not just a good doctor, but a good human being who relates well to patients and always put the patient first and have compassion and have humility. Always be willing to learn. I am still learning. I still have to go and research things. I come across operations that I've not had to do before and I ask for help. So they are some of the key things I would give to students and trainee surgeons. Always be learning, always be humble enough to ask for help, and always be continuing to grow your surgical skills.
Always improve yourself. So, what role do you believe empathy, compassion, and culture sensitivity play in global health initiatives, particularly in surgical care?
Yeah, the patient has to be the center of everything, and so you have to have empathy for the patient, compassion, and deal with them in an appropriate, compassionate manner. If you do that, you win the heart of the patient. And there is some evidence that if, for even just a simple thing like explaining to them the sort of surgery you are going to do, what the potential risks are, and telling them what to expect, that helps recovery. There's good evidence that that helps patients to recover, and you keep them calm. If they are anxious and you are rude and arrogant to them, like some surgeons are sometimes,
Exactly.
then that creates anxiety for the patient, and there's evidence that they do not have as good an outcome. So those qualities are really important. Even our college in Australia, where I did my initial surgical degree, has 6 key components. One of them being compassion and respect, or
Compassion.
2 of them, compassion and respect.
Okay, sir. Perfect. Sir, what do you think? Whom should come to the medicine field? And like you have such an amazing experience in medical field.
Yeah.
Like, what are the qualities in maker
Yeah,
and different students that they should choose medicine?
yeah. Um,
Like, sir, I asked this question because we have this issue in Pakistan that like people just drifted into medicine.
yes,
They don't know,
yeah,
but they just drifted to medicine due to their parental pressure, due to their peer pressure.
yeah.
So, what is your thought?
Well, it's not just in Pakistan, even in Australia.
Okay.
People might be encouraged to go to medicine because of their family, or they think that they will earn lots of money and have a good life.
Exactly.
Sure, we do that. But I think the people that do best in medicine are those that have what you said before, empathy and compassion for the patient, that look at the whole system, and the other critical thing is that they are teachable. I have seen medical students and even doctors and specialists who are not teachable. They might make mistakes, and you might suggest, well, perhaps you could have done it this way, which would be a bit better, and they do not want to know about it. So they are the qualities of people that we need more in medicine. People who have empathy, compassion, respect for the patient, and that are importantly are teachable. And the one big quality that is important, particularly for surgery, but any medicine, is having insight. What I mean by that is insight where you understand the limit of your capabilities and you're prepared to ask for help.
Exactly.
The most problems I've seen in my life in medicine are doctors and particularly surgeons who have got into trouble is that they have not been teachable. And I've had to be teachable. I've been taught many things by my mentors, but I think that's one of the best qualities you can have is being teachable, having insight to be teachable.
To be teachable. Sir, the last question is, what is your final message to the audience, to the medical student?
Sure. My final message would be have compassion and respect for your patients. Think about what your patient goes through, but to be a good doctor, you need to work hard, particularly at medical school. And you need to not only work hard, but make sure you get a good work-life balance so that you still have hobbies or sport or something that you can do to keep yourself healthy and fit. And but most of all, think about your patient.
Your passion. Exactly.
And I encourage people to go into surgery. I love surgery because also anatomy is something we are beautifully and wonderfully made, and we are put together in our human bodies. Our physiology and anatomy is just fantastic, and I love studying it. And that's one of the reasons why I like surgery, because we see how the human body is made and how we can put it back together again when it's damaged.
Exactly. Perfect, sir. Sir, it was such a wonderful talking we did. Thank you so much. Pleasure to meeting you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.